Greetings, Business Management 1 students. I'm sure by now you know that you are supposed to cover BEC111 in the first semester and BEC121 in the second semester. So we will start obviously with the first semester, where we are looking at Introduction to Business Management, which is BEC111. This course or this module is taken by students from various faculties. Some students registered for the BCom programs, some registered for business administration programs, others registered for Bachelor of Social Sciences programs. So it's a module that cuts across faculties, but it's relevant as it is relevant to most degree programs that are offered at the University of Fort Hare. You will also see that I'm using material that we got from Oxford, which is obviously from the prescribed textbook. So in as much as there are many textbooks that may cover the content that we are going to be looking at, it is important to also remember that there is a prescribed textbook. It's the 10th edition of this book. I'm sure if you look also in your learning guide, you'll find the details of the textbook. On this slide, it's basically the course code BEC111. Please ensure that you are registered for the correct course, BEC111. That's my name, Tendai. My surname is Chimucheka. My email address, in case you want to contact me in relation to course material or you have any questions, I've provided my landline. For my cell number, I'm sure most people got it on Blackboard. So the book that we are going to be using is Introduction to Business Management, the 10th edition. The 10th edition. It was published by Oxford. That's your prescribed textbook. I'm aware that there's the 11th edition, but currently we are still prescribing the 10th edition, as the 11th edition is still under review. So just to go straight to course content, we'll start with chapter 1, which is basically looking at the business world and business management. The business world and business management. The outcomes, what you are expected to at least be knowing by the end of this chapter, you must be in a position to explain the role of business organization, the role that is played by business organizations. You must also be in a position to explain the role the business organization play in making available products and services that the society needs. So people in the society, they have various needs. They need goods. They also need services. So you must be in a position to explain the role of business organizations in making sure that they provide the needed goods and services. You must also be in a position to describe the needs of society and how a business organization satisfies those needs in a market economy. So we know there are various or different market systems that one can find, including socialism, the command economy. But for purposes of this course, we will mainly focus on the market economy. You must also be in a position to distinguish the three economic systems that I have just mentioned: the free market system, the command system, and socialism. We will also discuss some aspects of the mixed economy. One of the learning outcomes also is that you ought to be in a position to describe the nature and purpose of business management as a science where the enabling factors, methods, and principles of the business are studied to ensure the efficient functioning of a business organization. So we'll also look at how does it relate with other disciplines what are the differences between business management and other disciplines such as economics, such as cost accounting, and so forth. Then you also ought to be in a position to comment the development of business management as a science. Then there are various management functions. You must also be in a position to discuss those or to distinguish between those functions of management or management functions, or at least to comment or say something about them. So looking at the chapter outline, we'll basically look at the role of business in society, the needs and need satisfaction, main economic systems, the need satisfying institutions of the market economy. As I've said, we'll mainly focus on the market economy. Not to really say we are living in a market economy or in a free market system, but for purposes of understanding theory in this course, we will assume that we are living in a free market economy. On whether in South Africa we have the free market system, the command economy, or socialism, that I will leave it unto you. After you have completed content for this course, after you have read and covered all content, you must be in a position to actually argue on what form of what economic system do we have in South Africa. Then we'll also look at the nature of business management, what is the main purpose of business management, and classifying the study material of business management, mainly looking at various functional areas of business management. Obviously, that will then be the end of this chapter. I will be referring also here and there to your textbook, because it is very, very important that as you are studying this course, you must use your textbook. I know there's always that temptation of students to say once they are given PowerPoint slides, they assume that they don't need to visit or consult the textbook. It is very, very necessary that each and every one of us have a textbook. So make sure that you buy a textbook. Make sure that you, if you cannot buy it, at least borrow it from the library. We have several copies from the library. You can borrow a copy and use it for purposes of this course. So the role of business in society, what is more important for me to mention here maybe is to discuss the business world. And I must say, in the market economy, the business world can be seen as a complex system that involves transforming resources into products and services to meet the needs of consumers in exchange for profit. So it can be seen as a complex system that involves converting inputs into outputs. Resources that we are talking of here can be used as inputs in the production process to produce output. Output can then be in the form of either finished products or services. And those output products or services are the ones that can be used by people in the society to meet their own needs. So in terms of resources that can be transformed, I'm sure we will look at those when we look at the transformation model, where we'll actually look at what resources can we be talking of when they are transformed, what is involved in the transformation process, and what can then be products and services, which come out obviously as output. What are the differences between those products and those services? The description of a business normally emphasizes 4 different elements. When we want to define a business or to describe it, normally we emphasize on 4 different elements. If you read any business textbook, whenever we are trying to define or to describe a business, we mainly focus on those 4 elements. And one of those elements is that businesses, they involve human activities. We cannot talk of businesses without talking about people. we cannot talk of businesses without talking of people. So we cannot eliminate people from businesses. I understand that nowadays, especially now that we are talking of the fourth industrial revolution, or the coming of the fourth industrial revolution, some people may argue to say no, but very soon businesses will be able to operate without people. They may be using technology, using machines, and people may be eliminated from the production processes of businesses. But it is also important to realize that those machines, such technology, will still need people to operate it. So business involves human activities. It involves people. Business involves labor. There are people who ought to be working. So we cannot talk of business without talking about people. Business also involves production. Production, this is where we speak of the transformation process, where inputs or raw materials or materials in general are actually converted into output that can then be used by people to meet their own personal needs or to meet the needs of other businesses. So business involves production. Production can lead to either products or to services. Products are those that we can physically touch, whilst services are those that we may not be able to touch. There are many other differences between products and services. For instance, some argue that in terms of products, the quality of a product it can objectively be measured, whilst the quality of a service is subjective. Some may also say no, in terms of products, they can be produced whilst the person who used the product is not present. But as for a service, the person who receives a service ought to be present when a service is rendered. For products also, some may argue that no, output from that output that is produced in the form of or that is manufactured, that we can classify as a product or as a good, it can also be stored in a warehouse, which is impossible when it comes to services. So there are many differences between products and services, but basically business involves production. It involves production. Business also involves exchange. Here we are saying no, in terms of when we are describing a business, whatever is produced by a business is not for the business own consumption. They produce so that they can exchange whatever they produce, be it products or services. They can exchange those for profit. Pardon me. They can exchange whatever they produce for money. They exchange whatever they produce for money. So businesses actually produce so that they can sell and earn income or money. Business also involves profit. No business can survive without making a profit. We ought to understand the difference between income and profit in this case. So businesses involves profit. They actually exist to make profits, and without profit, they cannot survive. So whenever we're describing business, in most cases, people mention those aspects, that they involve human activities, production, they involve exchange, and also profit. The market economy also comprises various businesses which can be grouped to form industries, and these industries are normally classified into two, being the informal sector and the formal sector. The formal sector comprises of large businesses, formally registered, but the informal sector usually comprises of those micro enterprises that may not really contribute to rates and taxes. In most cases, they may also not be properly registered. For example, those independent family-owned businesses, they form part of the informal sector. Whilst continuing with the role of business in society, it's important also to mention that the ability of a business to survive and prosper over long-term periods of time is the core of sustainability. Society and business, they both depend and influence one another. So whilst the society may think that they are very, very important and businesses may not survive without the society, because it is people who buy whatever the business produces. It is also important for businesses, for the society to realize that without what is offered by businesses, they may also not be able to meet their own personal needs. So society needs businesses. Businesses also need society. Because if the business assumes or thinks that they can do it or they can make it without the society, who will buy their products? Who will make use of their services? So in terms of sustainability, there are some aspects that we also ought to look at. For example, issues of social responsibility. I know we'll look more into it in chapter 5 when we look at corporate social responsibility, where we say businesses ought to be responsible for their actions. They ought to be held responsible for their actions. They also have some responsibilities to give back to the community. But it's important to also realize that once a business is socially responsible, that can also contribute to sustainability. Because if businesses are not socially responsible, some people may actually try to distance themselves from such businesses. The same also applies to business ethics. That people in society generally want to deal with businesses that also show an importance of ethics. They want to deal with businesses that operate ethically. So if you're a business that ignores those general norms that are generally acceptable in society, people are also most likely to distance themselves from whatever you sell, from whatever you are offering to the market. The issue of employment equity, we will also look at it we'll focus more on it when we look at human resources management. I think that is chapter 12 in BEC111, where we'll be saying whenever organizations are employing people or are to hire people, their workforce component should reflect people that are in the society, should reflect the composition of people that are in the society. So if we have more of a certain category of people in the society, that should also be reflected in terms of the workforce of an organization that is operating in that particular society. That may give the society an idea or a feeling that to a certain extent such an organization is caring, such an organization is also giving back to the community by employing some people. Then consumerism, these are, we must always understand that they are now sort of activists, people who are actually activists to defend the rights of consumers. And this also puts a bit of pressure on businesses to say they cannot only focus on their own goals or on their own plans now, but they should also understand the needs of the consumers. They should not infringe on the rights of the consumers. Then we also have environmental sustainability. Now people speak more of the planet. Whenever we speak of sustainability, most people think of the triple bottom line, to say no, businesses should focus on the people, they should focus on the profit, they should also focus on the planet. So when we are discussing environmental sustainability, that's the planet component. That as you operate your business, or as businesses operate, they ought not to damage the environment. They ought not to damage the environment. So in short, I can actually say businesses nowadays, if they aim to be sustainable, if they aim to actually make profits in the long term, wherever they operate, they must always understand the concept of social responsibility, employment equity, business ethics, consumerism, and environmental sustainability. These are very, very key, and they are very, very important. I will move on to needs and need satisfaction. Needs and need satisfaction. It is important to highlight that people generally have unlimited needs. And you must have heard it from somewhere that people generally, they have unlimited needs. It is difficult to please a person to a point where they say, no, I am satisfied, I no longer need anything. It is difficult to actually meet the needs, all the needs of a person, because it's like their needs constantly emerge. When you satisfy one need, another need emerges. Then when you satisfy that particular need, another need will also emerge. So in terms to help us understand needs and need satisfaction, we'll use a theory by a man by the name Abraham Maslow. This man developed what is commonly known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what we learn from that particular hierarchy of needs is that humans have a wide range of unlimited physical, psychological, social, and egocentric needs that need to be satisfied. And these needs, they range from the most basic need for food to the need for self-realization. Please note that as we are focusing on this particular theory of particular hierarchy of needs, it is also used as a theory of motivation, and we'll focus on it in more detail in chapter 12. But currently we are only using this hierarchy of needs to understand that people have unlimited needs. People have unlimited needs. So Abraham Maslow identified different needs that people have. He also came up with a number of assumptions that we may not really need to focus on now. So in terms of the needs that he identified, he said once people at first, they have what are known as physiological needs, which are basically the need to survive. So these are at the bottom of the hierarchy of needs, which was proposed by Abraham Maslow. The physiological needs, these represent the need to survive, the need for food, the need for water, basically the very basic needs of a human being. Those are known as physiological needs. According to Abraham Maslow, once those physiological needs are met, they cease to motivate a person, and another level of need will then emerge. And the level of need that will emerge soon after the physiological needs are satisfied is known as safety needs, which are basically the needs to be free from harm, or the need to be safe. When we say the need to be free from harm, we are referring to the need to be free from harm, whatever harm, be it physical, be it social, be it emotional, just the need to feel safe. So once physiological needs are satisfied, the need to feel safe will emerge. And once people feel that they are safe, according to Abraham Maslow, social needs will emerge. So that's when they will start to look for people to affiliate with. They will start to look for groups to join. They want to create a sense of belonging so that they have a feeling of belonging in one or so groups. If it's at the workplace, maybe they want to You have those work groups or join some unions and so forth. But according to Abraham Maslow, he also said once social needs are satisfied, esteem needs will emerge. So they will also develop that need to be seen as better than others. The need to be recognized, for people to see you as important. Esteem needs are also referred to as egocentric needs. Then after those esteem needs are satisfied, Abraham Maslow also argued that that's when self-actualization needs will emerge. Your textbook refers to self-actualization as self-realization needs. That's when people will start to seek challenging tasks. They want to do more work that even if it's not assigned to them, they want to do it for self-fulfillment. So basically, we will use those categories of needs as was identified by Maslow to actually highlight that people have unlimited needs. For purposes of this course, it's also important to realize that those unlimited needs, they will still need to be satisfied using limited resources. So in terms of resources, we only have we have natural resources, which in short refer to natural resources. Your land, if we were to simplify it to factors of production, natural resources will basically refer to all those resources that you would refer to as land. Then we also have human resources, and I'm sure you know that land is depleting. It's a resource that is limited. Then we also have human resources, mental capabilities of people, the skills of people themselves. It's also a limited resource. When we are to look at it as a factor of production, we're talking of labor. Then we also have capital. Capital basically refer to machines, equipment, assets that the organization can use in the production process. Then we also have entrepreneurship, which includes management, obviously. Entrepreneurship is seen as a driving force of all the other factors of production, because this is the spark that brings all the other factors of production into motion. So it's a very, very important resource that we cannot ignore. So we need to understand that these unlimited needs ought to be satisfied using limited resources. Those that are taking economics as a course, that's when they speak of the economic problem. That's when they speak of the economic problem. How do you satisfy unlimited needs using limited resources? Key sacrifices will need to be made. Key decisions will need to be made on how best can we use the limited resources that we have to satisfy unlimited needs. This slide is basically explaining what those resources entail, and examples are also given. So we'll also look at the cycle of need satisfaction. The ability to satisfy community needs by utilizing scarce resources to produce products and services. Society is often confronted with the economic problem or the economic principle. So the economic principle basically refers to how we can use the limited resources to satisfy unlimited needs that people have. So there, as I said, there are key decisions that will need to be made. These include which products or services should be produced and for how many people. Who should produce these products? Should it be the private people, private companies, or should it be the government? How should these products or services be produced? And using what resources? Where do we get those resources? And who are you producing the products for or the services for? So those decisions will need to be made. Let me just look at key aspects that we ought to cover before we look at the cycle of need satisfaction. Okay. So in terms of the cycle of need satisfaction, this is basically a model to show how need satisfaction decisions are actually made by the community or by the society. And the driving force of the community is the economic motive. How do we satisfy our unlimited needs and wants using limited resources? So the community chooses the need satisfying system. So with the limited resources that we have and the unlimited needs and wants that we have, what economic system will best work for us? Should it be the command economy, where the government foresees and actually manages everything? Should it be socialism, where the government maybe controls the strategic areas of the economy? Or should it be the free market system, where everything is determined by the laws of demand and supply? Then it indicates the role of need satisfying organizations. So here when we choose, or when the community chooses the economic system, there is need to understand the advantages and disadvantages of each and every one of the three main economic systems: socialism, the free market system, and the command economy. So it is necessary, it is very, very important at this stage that you also read about socialism, about the free market system, and also about the command economy, so that you understand the differences and you also understand the advantages and the disadvantages. Then there is the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs and their businesses are the need satisfying institutions in the market economy. So if they choose the market economy, there is need for the entrepreneur. And these people, obviously, they are driven by profit. They pursue profits. So they are very, very necessary. We'll talk about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship in chapter 2. Then if the society is not satisfied, obviously, they make that particular decision again. Maybe if they had chosen the free market system and they realize that there are certain people who are suffering because they do not afford, they may now choose another economic system, maybe socialism, maybe the command economy, depending on the community. This particular slide shows the characteristics of the three main economic systems. These, you can actually go through them on your own, and I advise you to also read the textbook. But what is commonly known is that in a free market system or in a market economy, members of the community, they have freedom of choice. Because there are many key players, or there are many players in that economy who are offering products and services in pursuit of profits. So it's important to realize that members of that community also, they may possess assets and they can actually earn profits from them, from the assets. The allocation of resources is effected by free markets. Basically, demand and supply and their effect on price is what we talk of. in the free market system or in the market economy. The state keeps its interference in the system to a minimum. Actually, the role of the state will be very, very invisible. It plays a very minimal role. But in terms of the command economy, the state decides what should be produced, who should produce, and for who. So the state actually makes key decisions in a command economy. Choices of products and services is actually limited to what the state offers. It's unlike in the market economy, where people have the freedom of choice because there are many players, many organizations supplying the same product. In the command economy, it depends on what the state offers. In terms of owning assets, actually the system of communal ownership, in which individuals owns no property except private domestic assets. But in terms of socialism comprises between a pure market. This is a compromise between a pure market economy and a pure command economy. Businesses and consumers, they operate within free markets in which they are at liberty to make decisions without restrictions. And consumers have greater freedom of choice than those under command economy. But in socialism, the government controls key strategic areas of the economy. That's the main difference with the market economy. Because in the market economy, the government's hand is very, very invisible. The government plays a minimal role as the laws of supply and demand are the ones that actually control everything that happens. Here we continue to compare, but this is for you to do. I'm sure you also get a task where you are supposed to compare the three main economic systems. This slide just makes it more simple for you to understand the differences between the main three economic systems. It's important also to state that it is difficult to find a pure free market system in the world, as it is difficult to find a pure command system in the world. So none of those three main economic systems that we talk of can actually occur in a pure form anyway, but rather they occur as mixed economies. They occur as mixed economies. So you may find a bit of socialism mixed with a bit of free market system. Or you may actually find a bit of command economy mixed with a bit of free market system. So basically that's what we are saying. To say, if we were to ask you to give us examples of the free market system or examples of countries where we have the free market system, we would still have debates. Because others would say, no, but health is provided by the government in that particular country. If we were to say, give us examples of the command economy, other people were still going to argue to say, no, but people in that country have a freedom of choice when it comes to these other sectors. However, it is important to also be in a position to give examples of countries with a pure, or to give examples of countries with the free market system. America is normally mentioned, and also to be in a position to give countries with a command economy. People normally speak of Cuba as an example, but you don't only need to be able to state the country, you must also argue your case. Then we also have the need satisfying institutions of the market economy. Here we talk of business organizations, the government or government organizations, and non-profit seeking organizations. Business organizations, these are need satisfying institutions or organizations that need to make a profit for them to survive. So in most cases, if we ask what is the main purpose of a business, people will quickly say, no, it is to make profits. No, businesses obviously ought to make profits for them to survive. Then in terms of government, these are need-satisfying institutions where states create products or services believed to be strategic, economic or political, to be of strategic, economic or political importance. Those government organizations that offer certain services or products that would not be offered by the private community or by private businesses. In South Africa, we speak of organizations such as South African Airways, such as the South African SABC or South African Broadcasting Corporation, organizations such as the ESCOM, where we get our electricity. Some would argue that where we get our load shedding. But no, we get electricity from ESCOM. Then we also have non-profit seeking organizations, but these, they will still need to make a profit, although they call it surplus. So these are need-satisfying institutions whose main reason for existence is not really to make profits, but they need to make a surplus for them to survive or to be sustainable. So it may happen that one day you will be working in a non-profit seeking organization. It doesn't mean that you must always be making deficits. You must actually work to make a surplus, which in our terms, in business terms, is basically a profit. This slide explains the products and services that are offered in the market system. We will not dwell much on this because it's just showing the products and services that are offered. For now, we can actually look at the nature of business management. And what we are supposed to focus on is what we are given. Economics and business management as related sciences. Yes, in economics you cover, or you spend more time discussing the economic principle, the economic motive. How best can you use the limited resources to satisfy unlimited wants or needs? So in that regard, it is actually, business management is actually related to economics. And some of the economic principles, economic theories that you would cover in economics, you will still cover them in business management. In terms of the purpose and task of business management, this one I wouldn't want you to take risk because it's an area that we shouldn't leave blurred. You ought to understand the purpose and task of business management. And for that, I will refer you to page 30 of the prescribed textbook, where it is clearly written that the purpose of business management is to produce the greatest number of units of products or services at the lowest possible cost. So we're speaking of profitability, we're speaking of efficiency, productivity. That's what we mainly focus on. The task of business management entails an examination of the factors, methods, and principles that enable a business to function as efficiently and productively as possible in order to maximize its profits. So that's the purpose and task of business management: efficiency, productivity, profitability. We are studying those key aspects. How best can we make out of the resources that we have? How best can we be productive? How best can we be efficient? How best can we be profitable? Is business management an independent science? Yes, it is an independent science, very independent from other disciplines, although there may be similarities with other disciplines such as economics, cost accounting, and so forth, or management accounting, and so forth. definitely business management is a discipline on its own. There are many other disciplines that may look more likely the same with business management, like administration, public administration. But you will realize that in terms of public administration, you're studying mainly those institutions which are not mainly for profit making. But in terms of business management, the main focus is on profit making. So we cannot make profits if we are not efficient. We cannot make profits if we are not productive. So it is important to understand the main purpose of business management. Then there are functional management areas of a business that we ought to understand. In chapter 6, we'll look at general management or introduction to general management. Some refer to it as strategic management. We'll look and see when we get there. Then there is also marketing management, where we say, no, you may actually have produced certain products, or you may actually be in a position to render services. But if you do not know how to take those products or services out of your business and take them to the market, you may still fail as a business. So it's necessary to study how best can you take your products or services to the market, to the people who are prepared to pay and use those products. Financial management, this deals mainly with the management of finances in the organization. Where do we get finances? How best can we use those finances to generate more finances? Or how best can we invest those finances? Then also production and operations management. How best can we convert inputs or raw materials into output? What is the best way to do it? Without making losses, without actually making lots of waste. What's the most efficient way to do it? How best can we do it? Then purchasing management. Purchasing management, this takes the greatest part of the budget of every organization. Purchasing function. Responsible for buying or for purchasing materials that will then be used in the organization, in whatever function of the organization. So while most people look down upon this particular function, it is very, very important. And if this particular function is not properly managed, it's easy for any entity or organization to fail. Irrespective of whether it's the best production function or the best marketing function or the best finance function. If the purchasing and supply function is not properly managed, you can still fail. The same applies with human resources management. This function or this type of management deals with the management of people. As we said earlier, no organization can operate without people. So you ought to be in a position to know how best can we make use of the human resource that we have in the organization. How best can we recruit people with key competencies that can take the organization where we want it to be. How best can we motivate the staff that we have or the employees that we have so that we can achieve what we want to achieve as an organization. Then we also have public relations management, which mainly deals with managing the relations that we have with other stakeholders, including customers, including shareholders, including other people that we may have alliances with, or that we may actually need to have alliances with. So this was chapter 1, and we looked at the business organization's role in society. And we mustn't forget that another key role that organizations play, or business organizations play in society, is to provide goods and services that we need for the satisfaction of our needs and wants. social process that transforms a country's means of production. Businesses can also be seen as a social process that transforms a country's means of production. Businesses can also be seen as a component of the economic system. The economic system cannot work without businesses. It is businesses that provide for employment of people. It is businesses that contribute to the gross domestic product of any economy. So businesses are very, very important. Businesses provides for the needs of the people. Those unlimited needs that we spoke of. I know when you read your textbook, you will find some funny physiological needs, funny examples of physiological needs, funny examples of security needs or safety needs, funny examples of social needs, funny examples of esteem needs, and funny examples of self-actualization needs. But it is businesses that provide for the satisfaction of those needs. This was it for chapter 1. I hope you understood the key concepts and you will be able to study now on your own to understand the chapter. Obviously, if you have any questions, you are free to contact me. You are free to also contribute to our discussions on Blackboard, where we will discuss, answer each other, ask questions, answer questions that are asked by other people. I will be there on Blackboard to moderate the discussions. So thank you so much, and my encouragement is that you ought to study your textbook. Be a friend to your textbook. Be a friend to your textbook. Thank you.